Hey, it's Chris Beyer. Welcome to another Bottom Line Thursday. CB, we've got our special guest, Brad Johnson, and I am not wearing blue because I'm a rebel.
Love it.
I gotta differentiate myself in some way.
I like that.
So Brad, I know you are a survey follower, so you love to see what's trending across the country in different states. You look at a lot of different surveys when it comes to healthcare. You've got some new updates for us now as we go into the year end 23. What have you seen that's new for us as we look at 2024?
Yeah, one of the surveys I've enjoyed looking at over the past 20 some years is the Kaiser Family Foundation survey.
Yeah.
And
That's a good
after I
one.
said all those words, I'm laughing at myself to say enjoyed looking at after 20. I'm really boring, but
Well,
hey, it might give us some interesting topics for this at least, right? I'll try to make it fun.
All right.
But the Kaiser survey it's a nonprofit entity and nonpartisan, and they also do a random sampling of employers across the country versus an opt-in approach like a lot of surveys, including the Milliman one. If you want to participate, go ahead. You have to be invited to come in. So one could argue statistically it's maybe a little more random. But they found that the average premiums increased 7% this past year, which is consistent with the other things we've all been sharing and seeing, candidly. But for the Kaiser survey, it was the largest bump that they had in a decade. Wow. So that alone is kind of interesting.
It's been a rough claims year. Every renewal conversation we went into, we just had illnesses that are costing so much. And of course, we keep beating on specialty meds. But yeah, it does not surprise me, Brad, that this has been the worst year. And again, I hate to blame stuff on COVID because I'm sick and tired of hearing about it. But it seems like, we thought 21, okay, because 2020 was a great year, right? Because nobody
went in.
Claims aspect,
right.
Nobody did it. 21, we started to see things sort of come back to normal. And I really thought 22 would be our worst year, but I think 23's been worse than 22.
Yeah. And it's definitely conditions that we've seen before, but they are more severe.
Yeah.
They are hurting that health of the member further, which means it's more expensive. And I could see, I'm hopeful it's not like this again next year. Maybe we get back into a cycle of taking care of stuff consistently and not letting it spiral.
And I always have faith in the law of large numbers. Things revert to the mean over time, right? And so if they're askew on the low end or the high end, they eventually revert to the mean. And unfortunately, mean is still trend, right? But it's not trend plus 4% or whatever we see out there. I just pulled a couple interesting stats, and I compared this one to the Milliman survey, excuse me, frog in my throat, that we do. And it's kind of interesting. This skews a little smaller in terms of employers. And they also sample fewer. Like the Kaiser one looks at like 2,100 firms. The Milliman one this year looked at over 7,000. But deductibles were close. Kaiser survey had the average PPO traditional plan coming in just under $1,300. Our survey was $1,500 nationally, so a little higher. It's kind of funny. Co-insurance, if we just go through the top features of a plan, co-insurance, 80-20 on their survey, 80-20 on ours. It's outside the norm to not have 80-20. It's comical.
Yeah, I would agree. That's been pretty consistent for a long time.
Out of pockets, they were at 3,000 to 4,000. They just gave a range. Ours was 4,500-ish, 5,000, depending on which one. Office copays, $26. We're at 30, 44. For specialists, we're at 50. Pretty close.
Yeah.
So, I think, go ahead.
What was interesting years ago, and Milliman will still do this for us today, but you wonder if the difference was like back in the day, Milliman would show us what East Coast benefits were, and they were so much more rich than ours. So you go back to this Kaiser one and say, did you skip the middle? And did you kind of go East Coast, West Coast? Because maybe that's why numbers are a little bit off, because man, we used to get there was like almost an extra 5 pages of our big report. And it was just comparing East Coast, South, and West Coast. And I hate to say this, but we here in the Midwest do not have the richest benefits. it's
No.
more of, like you said, $1,500 deductible, $4,000 out of pocket. It's certainly less rich.
Yeah. And it's interesting too that you look at all the surveys. I mean, that all statistics, you have something that's going to skew it, but it is interesting that it's somewhat close to what we're seeing within Milliman, and certainly our focus has been more Midwest. But Brad, you were alluding to Milliman's national survey, but either way, benefits are going up in cost, and they're not staying as rich. And I think we're going to continue to see that on a national trend.
Yep, that's the takeaway.
Yeah.
And they all, my thing with surveys, use them as a directional tool, not an exact tool. So to say, I want to be exactly where the survey is, I'll tell you, well, Kaiser uses the average and our survey uses the median. They're different,
right?
They're different measures, so you want to, does it justify where you're at? Are you a little high, little low is kind of how I use them. So
yeah, that's a good point, because it gives it's a benchmark. It gives us an idea of where things are, so you can now make decisions for each individual client and help them determine what's best for them.
I will say that Milliman's report was helpful around employer HSA contributions. That really helped us this year, because we had some employers that just weren't as generous as we thought that they should be. And I think that benchmark helped them see, okay, maybe I do need to up that up, drive that up a little bit.
That is a good point.
So that's where I really think Milliman is helpful. Other than that, Brad, to your point, you got to design a plan that's best for your culture, best for your organization, best for your demographics.
Yeah.
And a benchmark's just a benchmark.
Yep.
Thank you, Brad. Another great one.
Thank you, Brad.
Appreciate it. All right.
See you next time.
All right.
Good to see you.
All right. Bye.